Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make some mincemeat or mini mincemeat Christmas cakes, and they're going to go into little tins like this, which are 5 inches across and just about 2 inches deep, but I've lined them with parchment paper which comes up above the surface, the rim of the cake tin, and they'll just be a nice size that you can hand out to people as gifts basically. So in the past I've done the last minute mincemeat Christmas cake and the full size one, and in fact I do it every year for my family, but I've done a video of that, and this is just a cut down version of that basically, and this is going to make 4 or 5 of these mini cakes. So it's quite a straightforward recipe, but it takes time because we need to soak the mincemeat and some dried fruits for about 4 hours before we do anything with it. And I'll go on to the ingredients for that now. I have here 175 grams, which is 1 1/4 cups of mixed dried fruit, which is a combination of chopped mixed peel, sultanas, raisins and currants basically. I have an additional 50 grams, which is a third of a cup of chopped mixed peel. I have 50 grams, which is about 8 glacé cherries, which I've chopped into quarters. 110 grams, which is 2/3 of a cup of soft dried prunes, again which I've chopped roughly. I have 50 grams, which is about half a cup of mixed nuts, which I have chopped roughly, and another 50 grams, a third of a cup of Brazil nuts, which I have chopped roughly. I have 400 grams, which is 1 1/3 cups of mincemeat, 150 millilitres, which is half a cup plus 2 tablespoons of brandy. I have 225 grams, which is 1 1/2 cups based on scooping packed flour into a 250 millilitre cup of self-raising flour. And to go into that as well, I have 12 grams, 3 teaspoons of baking powder. If you want to use plain flour, use the same amount of plain flour, but double the amount of baking powder. So that would be 24 grams, 6 tablespoons. I have 3 grams, 1 1/2 teaspoons of mixed spice, 1 1/2 grams, 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, 150 grams, 3/4 of a cup of dark brown sugar, 3 large eggs, which would be extra large in the USA, and that will weigh about 175 grams out of the shell. I also have the zest from 1 lemon and the zest from 1 orange. So those are all the ingredients for the cake, but I also have some apricot jam, which I have mixed into a little bit of brandy, and I've used this already, but I'm going to use it again. I'll reheat it and it will go soft. So that's apricot jam, 1 tablespoon, and a tablespoon of brandy for a glaze to go on the top. And I also have some Brazil nuts, walnuts and pecans, which I'm going to put on the top of each of the little cakes, just to make a bit of a pattern. I may chop those up, but that's once the cakes are all assembled basically. So that's all the ingredients, and the first thing we need to do is to soak our fruit. And as I moved things to one side, I realised I hadn't mentioned my 150 grams, which is 10 1/2 tablespoons of room temperature butter. And so I have in my bowl the 400 grams of mincemeat, and I'm just going to put in the chopped mixed peel, the dry mixed fruit, the chopped prunes and the chopped glacé cherries. And I'm going to pour in the brandy as well. I'm going to give those a good mix around. And I'm going to cover this fruit and mincemeat with some plastic wrap. I'm going to leave it for 4 hours, and I may actually take the wrap off and stir it a couple of times during that 4 hours, but the important thing is to let it soak for long enough that most of the brandy is absorbed into the dried fruits. So I'll cover that. And I'll leave that for 4 hours, and then I'll come back and we'll make our cakes. And at that time I'll have my oven preheating to 170 degrees Celsius, 340 Fahrenheit. So I'll be back in 4 hours when we're ready to make the cakes. So my mincemeat and my fruit has been soaking for at least 4 hours. So I'm going to mix everything together now. And I'll start off by putting my sugar and the butter and the eggs into a bowl. And I'll add in the zest of the orange and the lemon at the same time. And then I'm going to just whisk those with my hand mixer to get those nicely combined. And that's good enough like that. So then I'm going to tip my salt, the mixed spice and the baking powder into the flour, and I'm just going to give that a stir around to get those a bit combined, and then I'm going to sift those into a large bowl. And that's good enough like that. So then I'm going to pour in the wet mixture that I just mixed together. And I'm going to mix that together until it's light and fluffy, basically. and that's good enough. So the last thing to go in is the fruit, the mincemeat and the nuts, and I'm going to add those gradually with any excess liquid in the fruit, and I'm going to fold those through. And with that folded through, I just need to put that into the prepared cake pans. Now I've only got 4 of these pans, so I'm going to do 4, and then if there's batter left over, which I think there will be, I'll do more. I'm just going to use an ice cream scoop for ease of getting it in quite cleanly actually. And I think that that's about enough in each one. I just want it about to the top of the cake pan. And I'm going to just level it off. Like that, and then I'm going to take the nuts which I mentioned that I was reserving, and I'm going to just place a few on the top. Like that. and I'm going to put those into the oven, and I'm going to bake them in the oven for between 60 and 70 minutes. They should rise up in the cake tins. They may dome a little bit on the top, and they should bake through, and a skewer poked into the centre should come out clean. So then I take them out of the oven and leave them for a couple of minutes before I turn them out onto a wire rack to cool completely. I baked my cakes for 70 minutes, and the internal temperature got up to 98 degrees. They've been out of the oven now for a good 5 minutes, and they're still in the high 80s. So I know they're baked through, and I've taken this one out of the tin and the paper, and I've taken this one out of the tin. I took this out of the paper as well so that I could reuse the paper and the tin to bake off the remaining batter, which is going to give me a smaller cake, but it will still give me another cake. So I'm just taking a little bit of my apricot jam with the brandy, and I'm brushing it over the top of the cakes. This is going to give it a glaze, basically. And then I'm going to leave them to cool completely. So I'm going to leave those, and I will take these ones out of the tin as well. And once they've cooled down completely, I'll come back and show you what they look like. So my 4 cakes have cooled down, and I baked the remaining batter into a smaller cake with not quite so much fruit and nut inside, and that's been cooling down as well. So I'll show you those 4 cakes again, and I'll have a taste of the small one which I've cut a slice of. So they have baked up very well indeed, and they're a good size. And I ought to mention, I think I said that the cake tins were 5 inches by 2 inches. They're actually 4 inches by 2 inches, but they're a decent size. So this is the one which was the smaller cake, and again that's baked up very nicely. And there's actually more cake and less fruit and nut in this one. I'll have a taste of this. Has such a lovely flavour with the fruit and the mincemeat and the spices. It's very, very good indeed. And then the nuts as well add that crunch into the texture as you're biting into it. So these are perfect to give as gifts, and they're great as a last minute Christmas cake. The full size one on the Delia Smith website, and the one which I make every year, is a last minute mincemeat Christmas cake, meaning you can make it the week of Christmas and it will be perfect for Christmas Day. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there'll be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well. And I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.